Hey, this is Zan at The Pour-Over.
And this is Bailey at The Pour-Over.
Today we're talking about the sentencing of Bryan Kohberger in the Idaho student's murder case, a trade deal with Japan that the stock market liked, President Trump saying former President Obama should be prosecuted for fabricating Russiagate, and other top news for Friday, July 25th. Stay informed while remaining focused on Christ with The Pour-Over.
Here's your quote of the day. Before you sleep, read something that is exquisite and worth remembering. Desiderius Erasmus. Let's get started with some espresso shots.
Bryan Kohberger will spend the rest of his life behind bars. On Wednesday, a judge sentenced him to 4 consecutive life sentences, plus 10 years for burglary, with no possibility of parole, for the 2022 murders of 4 University of Idaho students. Kohberger pleaded guilty earlier this month as part of a deal to avoid the death penalty. When asked at sentencing whether he wanted to speak, he responded, quote, "I respectfully decline." Kohberger, a former criminology PhD student at Washington State University, 8 miles from the murder scene in Moscow, Idaho, was arrested weeks after the November stabbings. Investigators tied him to the crime using surveillance footage of a white sedan and DNA on a knife sheath found at the scene. Neither he nor his defense team have publicly shared a motive, leaving victims' families, who asked for answers in court, still asking why. Christians' radical love shines in our dark world when we love even those who hate and hurt us. Loving our enemies demonstrates that we belong to our Father, who loved his enemies so much that he allowed them to kill his son so that he could be close to them. Matthew 5:44-46 says, "Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be children of your Father in heaven. For he causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. For if you love those who love you, what reward will you have? Don't even the tax collectors do the same?"
The Trump admin's making trade deals and AI plans. President Trump unveiled a, quote, massive trade deal with Japan, lowering tariffs from 25% to 15% in exchange for Japan's $550 billion investment in the U.S., including purchasing 100 Boeing planes and upping defense spending with American firms. Trump says the U.S. will, quote, receive 90% of the profits from the investment, and that the deal will increase American industry's market access in Japan. The markets applauded. The S&P 500 reached an all-time high, and Japanese auto stocks, Toyota and Honda, each accelerated about 12%. Meanwhile, the White House unveiled its strategy for, quote, winning the AI race in a 23-page document outlining plans to speed up construction for data centers, mitigate, quote, ideological bias in chatbots, and remove, quote, federal red tape, think environmental regulations. Our ultimate purpose is to glorify God, the creator of the universe, the God who provides, great innovator and inventor of everything. No matter what the state of the economy is or what new technology emerges, remember to use all of your resources to point others to eternal hope in Him. Colossians 1:15-16 says, "He is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For everything was created by him, in heaven and on earth, the visible and the invisible. Whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities, all things have been created through him and for him."
President Trump is accusing former President Obama of treason. It's based on a recently declassified report that Director of National Intelligence Gabbard says provides, quote, irrefutable proof that Obama directed his intelligence officials to say Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help then-candidate Trump, even though, quote, they knew it was false. Obama's office issued a rare statement denying the, quote, bizarre allegation, citing a bipartisan Senate report led by Marco Rubio, Trump's current Secretary of State, that concluded, quote, Russia worked to influence the 2016 presidential election, but it did not successfully manipulate any votes. Democrats allege the Trump admin is attempting to distract from ongoing Epstein-related drama, including the Wall Street Journal reporting President Trump was told in May that he was named in the files, which does not indicate any wrongdoing. The White House called it, quote, a fake news story. Here's a verse to consider when you're tempted to point fingers. The Lord is waiting to show you mercy, and is rising up to show you compassion, for the Lord is a just God. All who wait patiently for him are happy. Isaiah 30:18.
Hey, it's Ellie from The Pour-Over, and I'm officially in my breezy summer era, swapping out my cold weather wardrobe for linen everything. And with Quint, the transition's been effortless. Their linen is 100% European flax, which sounds fancy, and is, but their summer staples come without the fancy price tag. I grabbed a couple pairs of linen pants and some overalls, and have zero budget regret. Whether I'm heading to church, packing for vacation, or just trying not to sweat through another Tuesday, Quint is my new breezy BFF. Stick to the staples that last. With elevated essentials from Quint, go to quince.com/TPO for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/TPO to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/TPO.
In other brews, here's a rapid round of updates. Columbia University has agreed to pay a $200 million settlement to the federal government, which will restore, quote, a vast majority of the $400 million in funding cut over allegations that it failed to protect Jewish students from harassment. Columbia denied wrongdoing but said, quote, the agreement marks an important step forward, while President Trump promised similar outcomes for other, quote, unfair and unjust universities.
Ukrainians were protesting Wednesday, taking to the streets of Kyiv in the largest anti-government rally since the war began. Activists oppose a new law which is supported by Zelensky. They say the law weakens anti-corruption watchdogs. It's also drawn criticism from the EU and rights groups. Meanwhile, Russia and Ukraine held brief talks in Turkey and agreed to another prisoner exchange.
A doctor pleaded guilty to distributing ketamine to late actor Matthew Perry before his 2023 overdose. The California physician faces up to 40 years in prison and a $2 million fine. His attorney says he's, quote, profoundly remorseful and will voluntarily surrender his medical license, acknowledging he failed to protect a patient who was, quote, especially vulnerable due to addiction.
A plane crashed in Russia's Far East yesterday, killing all 48 people on board. The nearly 50-year-old Antonov AN-24 passenger plane was preparing to land when it crashed in a densely forested area. Rescue teams needed to use heavy machinery to reach the remote crash site. Investigators are looking into suspected air traffic violations which may have caused the incident.
Hulk Hogan, the shirt-shredding pro wrestler, died yesterday at 71 after suffering cardiac arrest. Lauren Terry Bollea, the 6'8", 300-pounder, began wrestling in 1977 and took on the moniker Hulk after drawing comparisons to the comic book hero. He became the face of professional wrestling with his blonde hair, horseshoe mustache, and bandanas after helping take the sport mainstream.
And that's all we have for today. Thanks so much for listening, TPO fam. If you're listening on the Apple Podcast app, give us a 5-star rating and drop a review. If you're listening on Spotify, give us a follow and hit the notification bell to never miss a new episode. We're so grateful for your support, and we hope you have a great weekend. Catch you on Monday.
If you like to think about complex issues, if loving your neighbor makes you smile, if you like to be challenged in your faith in a way that's not condemning, have we got a podcast for you. Check out Holy Post from VeggieTales creator Phil Vischer a theologically orthodox, pro-neighbor, entertaining podcast about what's going on in our world and how to see issues and the people affected by them, as Jesus does. Follow Holy Post wherever you listen to podcasts.